Okay, so in this little segment, we are going to talk about social learning and all of the many little aspects of social learning. There's a lot of small topics that fall under this category of social learning. So you can see in this picture below, that is a picture of the Bobo doll. And so this is where we're going to start. We're going to start with observational learning. This guy to my right is Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura did a study called the Bobo doll study, and the study is pictured below, or I guess it's above my picture here. You can see there's 4 pictures above, and then there's 4 pictures below. One is of an adult and one is of a child. And those are actually just photographs that were taken during this study. And so what Albert Bandura did was he wanted to see if watching an adult play affected how the child played. And so the children who watched the adult go into the room and play with the Bobo doll, so you can see a Bobo doll is like this weighted inflatable doll that can be knocked over and will pop back up because of the weighted bottom part. So the children that watched the adult go and play with the Bobo doll went in and played with the Bobo doll. There were other toys in the room, but children who watched the parent play with the Bobo doll also played with the Bobo doll. But what they noticed was the children who watched the adult hit the Bobo doll and kick the Bobo doll, the children also went into the room and hit and kicked this Bobo doll. The kids who did not watch the adult do this did not do that. They went and played with other things. Children also picked up like hammers and mallets, guns, other things, aggressive, hostile like objects to hit the Bobo doll with. And so Albert Bandura basically just concluded that children who watched aggressive behaviors repeated that aggressive behavior. If it was modeled for them, then they knew how to do this, and then they imitated what was modeled for them. And so that's really important. What is seen is learned, is what he came up with. And so there are a few other points that I want to make on this slide. There are 2 terms about good and bad behavior that is brought up in psychology. One is called pro-social. If you do pro-social behavior, pro-social means that is good. It's helpful, it's kind, it's thoughtful, it's considerate. Pro-social behavior is respectful, polite. Pro meaning good behavior. Antisocial does not mean that the person is shy and is not outgoing. That actually means they are producing social behaviors that are not good. So mean, hateful, disrespectful, unkind. So you just have to be really careful when you see words like pro-social and antisocial. It's not referring to like extrovertedness versus introvertedness. It's actually referring to good behaviors or good social behaviors and bad social behaviors. And the next point on this slide, mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are brain cells located in the frontal lobe that activate whenever you watch someone performing an action. And so what they notice is looking at the brain of a person observing another person, their brain will activate in ways that it appears they themselves are doing that task. So if a person kicks a ball, the observer, when we're looking at their brain is activating in a way that almost appears they themselves are kicking the ball. And so they associate this to empathy, that these mirror neurons help us feel what other people are feeling. Like we're not sympathizing, we're actually feeling, and we're feeling what they're feeling on a brain level type of way, and that our mirror neurons are activating when they're doing an action, but it looks like on our brain that we are actually performing that action. So kind of interesting. Those are mirror neurons. So let's keep going. Latent learning. Latent means hidden. That word actually literally means hidden. And so latent learning was studied by Edward Tolman, and what he did was he let rats or mice run through a maze, and he would not put a reward at the end of the maze. And he wouldn't actually know if the mice or the rats were finding the way to the end. And so what he did then was he put them back into the maze and he put a reward. And what he noticed was the rat would just fly through the maze to the end where the reward was. And he realized, wow, they learned how to get through this maze. They had created this mental map. It's called a cognitive map. They've created this cognitive map of the maze, and I didn't even realize they had done that because they weren't reinforced. They didn't have a reason to complete the maze, and so he called this hidden learning or latent learning, that you might learn something, but if you don't have a reinforcement, we can't visibly know that you've learned something until it's been reinforced. Okay, the next one is insight learning. Insight learning was studied by Wolfgang Kohler, and this right here is his chimpanzee. This is Sultan, and what he did was he would present an animal, like Sultan for an example, with an issue, a problem. And so the problem for Sultan was that his treat was too high and he couldn't reach it. So the banana was just way too high up. And so he wanted to see, can Sultan problem solve without ever watching any other animal or person problem solve? Can he problem solve? Can he come up with a solution without having seen it done before? So Sultan kind of, did a few things, and then Sultan stuck these two sticks together and knocked the banana down. And he thought, wow, he just problem solved. So whenever just an idea pops into your mind and it is a completely original thought, it's just a problem that has been resolved and you didn't watch someone, you haven't seen it done before, no one told you about it, it's almost like a light bulb moment. Like, oh, that's how it's done. That's called insight learning. Then we've got learned helplessness. So these are all like elements of learning that are called social learning. So then we've got learned helplessness. You can see, over here on the right side, we've got the dog. This is an experiment done by Martin Seligman. And what he did was he had these dogs in this contraption where they were stuck, and he would shock them. And they would be stuck getting shocked. And so he did this and repeated it over time, and he wanted to see if he took that harness off, if he released them from being stuck, would they learn to be helpless? Would they stay and continue getting shocked, or would they try to get out? What he learned was a lot of the dogs stayed. They continued getting shocked even when they were able to escape. And so what he concluded was, whenever we are struggling or things feel really hard and there seems like there's no way out, if we've been through that situation so many times, that we might learn to not try to escape that situation. And so I have related this to children on the other side. I think this happens in school a lot. And you might find yourself in this situation when something gets hard. You might just think, well, I'm not smart. I can't do this. And you just stop trying, when really you might be able to, but it's just hard and you struggle, and so you just quit. You don't continue. So that's learned helplessness. Okay, there's a few more other just small topics that are brought up in this unit and in this section on social learning. It's brought up the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Are you motivated to do something because you internally want to? Maybe you just enjoy it, or are you motivated to perform a task because there is something outside of you that's rewarding you? So intrinsic is you're getting an internal satisfaction. Maybe you play soccer because it's fun and you enjoy it, and it's just pleasurable to get out and exercise, and you just feel good. That's intrinsic. Extrinsic motivation would be if you're playing soccer because you want to look good in front of your friends, or you want to get a trophy, or you want to become a professional soccer player and make money. Those are all external factors that are influencing your desire. They say that extrinsic motivations kill intrinsic motivations. So if you're being rewarded externally, that will suppress your personal desire. Okay, I only have a few seconds left. Let me go to the next one. Internal versus external locus of control. This is, do you feel like you have control over your outcomes? If you feel like you have control over your outcomes, then that is internal locus of control. If you feel like you don't have control of your success or your failures or your outcomes, that is considered external locus of control. If you feel like where you are is because of everything outside of you, that's external. If it's within your own power, that's considered internal locus of control. Okay, I'm just at 10 minutes. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.